Alright, so video 2. So getting ready to go take this out to the range. If you haven't seen the first video, feel free to check it out, but it's mainly about the different stuff that I bought and how much it cost. But if you just want to see me shoot this thing or kind of see the impressions on this, go and watch this video. So far I can tell you that the safety on it, so this is a unbranded lower parts kit, and the safety on it's a little stiff, but all in all, everything going together wasn't too bad. No real issues on anything. Shooting this, I'll have no idea if it's decent or not, so I went out and I bought another rifle to go ahead and be able to compare this to. So this is a Colt. This is like the Honda of the rifle world. It's gonna shoot, it's gonna be efficient, it's gonna do everything you need it to do. As you can tell, it's nothing flashy, there's no fancy handguard on it. You're getting essentially everything you need and nothing that you don't. So basically this is going to be my baseline for any other features that rifles that I build, because essentially Colt's supposed to make some really reliable rifles, and I figure this is a good place to start. If it can compete with this, then seems like it would be a good rifle. But yeah, so we're going to just kind of shoot both of them, see how they do comparatively. That way I have a baseline, because if not, I don't really know whether or not it's any good or not. I'll just be shooting and kind of just telling you guys, hey, this happened, that happened, but this way I at least can compare it to something, and we'll see if it's any good. Let's go try it out and see what happens. So I just got done putting my handguard back on. As you see in the video, the handguard came off. That was the major issue I ran into. More on that in a bit. But overall, I'll kind of give you just my general impressions of the BCA upper right now. The upper is the part that's doing all the work. The lower itself is just kind of like the fire control group, aka trigger, and the buttstock and stuff. There's not a whole lot to go wrong there. Nothing's blowing up in this part. So yeah, all the heat and explosion and good stuff happens in the upper. So that's the part that needs to be sturdy and well made. Obviously you want a well made lower too, but at the end of the day, it is just not beat on as hard as the top is. So this part here is what's going to dictate whether you're accurate, and really is taking the majority of the punishment. This is the piece that's really going to break on you or have issues if you end up cheaping out like I did. As you saw, the handguard came off. I'll talk about that in a second. Other than that, the only other real part is The barrel seemed to work fine. Everything there seemed a-okay. Bolt carrier group, which is the piece of metal in here. Take it out and show you guys. The bolt carrier group itself, it looks fine. However, it doesn't look like it's necessarily well put together. It's not staked. I don't know if it's sealed. I don't have a staking tool, so I don't want to take it apart. However, the bolt carrier group, you can see where you get what you pay for. There's a significant difference between this one and something that you pay a little bit more money for. You're going to see where they took more time and care into making sure that those bolts that hold the gas key in aren't going to loosen up on you and separate. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. That's kind of getting into more advanced stuff, but basically just know that it's important, because if those bolts come loose and those parts start to separate, then the gas starts to leak and it doesn't contain the explosion as well as it should, which can lead to fracturing, parts breaking. So that's a piece that you don't want to skimp out on. So if you're going to spend money on any part of the rifle, you'd probably want to put it in the bolt carrier group, because that's really probably the most important part. Then after that, the barrel. But on this rifle itself, so far I haven't ran into issues. I haven't put a ton of rounds through it. In total, it's about 300 rounds. So not nearly as many as I wanted to. So I wanted to put 1,000 rounds through this before I gave it a review. However, I never made that far because the handguard came off. So what happened there? For you guys and gals out there who it's your first time maybe building something or even touching a rifle, first thing you want to do is you want to zero it. So for all my beginners out there who don't know what zeroing is, basically you're just sending a few rounds down to hit a target to make sure you're lining everything up. Once you shoot it, then you adjust your sights. There's little adjustments here, windage on the rear sight, and then elevation on the front sight. You can spin it to make it go up and down, and then the rear sight goes left to right. And essentially that's going to change what you're aiming at. So by moving it one way, it's going to go left. Moving another way, it's going to go right. Same thing up and down. And essentially you're making sure it's hitting where you're aiming. And so you shoot a few rounds, you adjust it, shoot a few more rounds, and you get it till you're hitting fairly consistently where you're aiming. That's the simplified, dumbed down version. But essentially that's what it is. If there's enough interest, I don't mind making a video out of it if you guys are interested. But there's a lot on YouTube. You can check it out and just search how to zero a rifle, and there will be a million videos of how to do it. And people out there who are much better shots than I showing you how to do it. Me personally, I didn't have anything. I just zeroed it prone at 50 yards. So I decided to zero the Colt first, and after a few tries, I think I did fairly decent. I'm not the greatest shot ever, but the Colt, it shot really well. I was happy with that. I was like, hey, you know what? That's a good zero. I was like, all right, I'm leaving it there. I think that's pretty good. I was like, I'll go with that. And then I decided to try the COVID AR with a BCA upper. And yeah, it was, not as good, a little bit more spread out, as you can see. But not too bad. And I said, I could do better than that. So I adjusted it, and I decided to try again. So I tried again, and then I adjusted it, and then I tried again, and then I adjusted it, and then I tried again, and then I adjusted it, and I tried again. As you can see, nothing ever moved. So that was really frustrating, and I couldn't understand why. I would just crank the windage over, was turning it all the way, and it just kept staying over here on the edge. So, unbeknownst to me at the time, the handguard had started coming loose. So these bolts here ended up coming undone, and I didn't realize it because they're coming out slowly but surely. So every time I would be firing it, they would loosen up a little bit, and the handguard would start to wiggle. Now, because I'm holding it and putting pressure on it, it slowly started to rotate counterclockwise, and because it was going counterclockwise, my sights were actually constantly tilting little by little. So every time I adjusted it, it was undone by the bolt loosening up. Funny enough, just enough so that it never moved. So it was almost like the gun was playing mind games with me, and it was just trying to psych me out. And yeah, so basically it just kept turning as I kept adjusting it, and eventually the windage pretty much went all the way to the right, before I said that, you know what, there's no way this is right. It was windy out, but I was like, it's not going to do that. 50 yards, it's not going to be making the bullet move at all. The wind won't even play a factor. And I kept adjusting it, and I knew something was up. And I was getting frustrated, and I said, I took a break, came back to it, and then realized that the handguard was coming off. So once I noticed the handguard was coming off, I started playing with the bolts, noticed they were loose, unscrewed them a little bit, and the handguard came off. And I was just kind of frankly fed up with trying to zero the damn thing, so I gave up, shot it, wanted to put some rounds through it, kept shooting it just to make sure nothing was going to blow up. It kept firing, and it worked as intended. Didn't have any malfunctions with it. So it works. At the end of the day, you get what you pay for. There's going to be some quality control issues, but it's going to shoot. Would I trust my life with it? Probably not, but if I'll be interested to see now with the handguard back on and tightened up to see if I can get it to zero a lot better and how accurate it is. Overall, it's accurate enough, especially if it's your first rifle. Most important thing is you getting out there and practice. I'd rather have this $400 rifle and spend another $600 on the ammunition and going out and training than spending it on $1,000 having nothing left for ammo. So factor that in your budget. If you only have $1,000 with how expensive ammo is right now, at least half of that to ammunition, or a few $100 of that towards ammunition, because you're going to want to go out and train. Don't forget about the range fees and your ear protection, eye protection, all the other stuff. You don't need to go super expensive. The most important thing is go out there, train. Well, I wouldn't wholeheartedly say get this gun for self-defense or anything like that. If you're trying to learn, you're trying to practice, and you just want to shoot paper targets, this is going to do what you need it to do. If it's all you can afford, it's going to do what you need it to do. Don't listen to the people out there saying that you need to spend $2,000 on a rifle. You don't. If you want to, great, awesome for you, no problem if you got that money, but I know not everyone does. You got to start somewhere, and sometimes you got to start small, and that's okay. Not terrible yet. I'll keep shooting it. Maybe it'll blow up in my face, and I'll have to take back everything I said, and I can absolutely not recommend it. But all in all, just keep in mind, if you're buying a cheap rifle, you're going to have to do some work on it yourself. So take all the bolts off, check them, Loctite them, tighten them. If you have a friend that has a staking tool, stake your bolt carrier group, take it apart even, seal it, put it back together, stake it. If you can do all that stuff and you know how to do that, you're going to be able to save yourself some money by doing a lot of the stuff that they're charging for. And if one of the 5 viewers I have out there happens to be a YouTube worker, keep in mind I'm not showing people how to build guns. I'm just teaching them how to be safe. So don't ban me. Don't hate me, YouTube. I'm not trying to break your rules. I'm trying to just help some people out. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like the video. That'd be great. I'd like to put out some more helpful information. Go out there, be safe, have fun. What an interesting sight. Maybe I can find some cheap gun parts here. That's a weird oh my